Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Ooh, it's haunted.
Why are we doing that? What's going on with that?
I don't know, man. I
What's
don't know.
haunted?
I picked something and I went with it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't good.
Are you happy with that? Are you happy with that decision?
No, I'm not. I'm not happy. Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched The Woman King.
The Woman King.
Dames. Am I right?
Yeah. These dizzy dames.
An evil is coming that threatens our kingdom, our freedom. But we have a weapon. They are not prepared for.
Okay. So
yep.
Yeah, this came out. This is doing well in the BO in the box office.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Viola Davis war movie.
Yeah.
I guess I want to start by saying I didn't think the marketing was very good for this, and I wasn't that excited to go see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gotten a bit of controversy around it. Did you see that?
Oh, no, I didn't.
And we'll talk about that.
Okay.
But I guess let's start with asking the question: how did you like The Woman King?
Oh, I thought this movie was pretty good.
Yeah, I really liked this movie.
Yeah.
This movie was kind of rocked.
I quite enjoyed
my
it.
world.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
What I was saying about the advertisement is that they tried. It felt like they were trying to push it to feel like a Marvel film, or to be like, oh, this is all action. But it's actually very character driven, and reminded me of like Top Gun. It had like that military plot.
Yeah, that was much
like,
more. It was about like the bond, like the sisterhood of all the women. You're right. It's like way closer to Top Gun.
Yeah, because I thought Viola Davis was going to be like the main character, and in the trailer they depict her as like just a superhero essentially. It's like, and it's like, well, that doesn't seem interesting. Mm-hmm. But no, the main character is a young woman who is her father keeps trying to marry her off to like shitty guys.
Yeah.
And she's like, fuck no. She's like 19.
Instantly shitty.
And so the father's like, I'm just going to give her to the army. Fuck it. And it's about, this specific kingdom in Africa, Dahomey, mm-hmm. who that is based off a real place. And they had these lady warriors, and she becomes a part of it. And it's about this young woman basically like training with these warriors and developing a relationship with Viola Davis, who is like the general. The controversy, Tom, which I don't feel anywhere near equipped to discuss or explore, is that it's something that's actually addressed in the movie, which is that the real tribe sold slaves. Yeah,
that's a big part of the movie.
Yeah, and I think the people who got really upset of it, there was the hashtag boycott the Woman King was going around.
I didn't even see that. I haven't been on Twitter much this weekend, Dave.
Good. I think it's because they didn't. I don't want to speak for people, obviously, but it felt like people might not have seen the movie,
right? Because it's like that's a huge part of the movie.
The main thread of the movie.
Yeah.
That said, it still probably sugarcoated it. To which I would reply. Yeah. How is that different from any movie we've done ever? I
always assume any historical drama I'm going into is like maybe 20% factual. So I just try to watch them as movies.
Yeah, and if you're watching like anything about like, the founding fathers or something like that, it's just like, how is that different than all those like slave traders and owners that we glorified, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it kind of like, again, maybe there's stuff I'm missing about this. I don't want to speak for anybody.
Yeah.
But that was just my feeling of like, well, they handle it like most movies about people who owned slaves or were racist don't even mention that.
Mm-hmm.
And so like this movie actually makes it a part of the movie. So I think it actually did more than a lot of movies do when addressing something like that. Because the plot of this is the kingdom is in fact selling slaves. They're captured. The people they capture, they sell to slave traders. And Viola Davis's character is like, hey, maybe let's not do that anymore. And King John Boyega is like, well, if you can think of a better way to make money, let me know. You know, and that's kind of part of the plot.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I assume that none of that happened in real life.
I assume, spoilers, at the end, he's like, we're not going to sell slaves anymore. I assume that's the sugar-coated version.
Yeah.
And like, again, it's any historical film. I don't know why people are targeting this one. It's just like, we do this all the time. We do it all the time. It's definitely a Hollywood version, you know? It's just...
Okay, here we go. I'm seeing from what
you're looking into it.
something written by Smithsonian says, although King Gizo, who is John Boyega in the film, did pursue palm oil as an alternate source of revenue, it proved to be far less lucrative, and the king soon resumed participation in the slave trade.
So what the movie doesn't show you is that when he gave that speech, then like cut to a few months later, and he was just like, never mind.
Yeah, never mind.
Okay,
I was making too much good money
so
on
it happened,
this.
but. Yeah, they leave out the footnote.
Yeah.
A very big footnote. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That all said, again, like, I don't know, this is a very good movie. This is the director of what's it called?
I don't know.
The Old Guard.
Oh, The Old
Guard.
Guard.
I didn't like.
This is much better than The Old Guard, yeah.
Yeah.
Even in terms of the action, I think the action is staged and filmed better in this film than it was in The Old Guard.
Yeah, I thought this movie fucked.
Yeah, so like pretty good.
So yeah, this young girl is they have this like wall where they're like only the warriors cross this wall, and her dad is like, here, you handle her. She goes in, and it's basically the first half of the movie is this girl trying not to become like a washout. Like it's like they're doing pranks, and they're like it's like a coming of age almost, where they're like training to become soldiers, and
it's a pretty familiar. Now I've lost what I was going to say.
Trope?
But like not trope, but like way in which the story is told for military movies. Where it's like you have a character that you're in, and then you get introduced to the squad that way, and you learn, and it becomes sort of a bit of an ensemble with all the other characters, and you get this real sense of bonding between all the characters, and then they have the war that they go fight toward the end, and they have a big rescue mission after that. So it's a lot about that, like the sort of bond between soldiers, for sure.
It's also a very typical technique for world building, which is that it's something that not enough movies realize, which is that you have the young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed person who's not used to the world gets the world explained to them, and by extension us, Yeah. It's a lot of her being like, so what's this all about, And so, yeah, she goes through the training where they like her first weapon is a rope. And she's like, why don't we get swords? And she's like, she gives her the sword and is like, here, go fucking cut off the dummy's head.
And she can't quite lift it. Yeah.
And she's like, all right, here's your rope. Because Viola Davis is killing it as like the hard ass general, who is like kind of terrifying,
Yeah, she's also.
But also you look up to her.
Yeah, and she's a little haunted, which is she's always so good, and she's really good in this. And I really like the movie's themes. Sort of
my God, yeah.
Like she's there's bits about trauma and how you deal with that. And there's obviously the stuff about there's a whole through line about how realizing your own strength and not giving it away to other people.
Yes.
And certainly specifically for women, not giving their power away to men.
Yeah, because this is a 19-year-old girl still, and they're not allowed to like have relationships. But then she meets like the some fuck me.
Yeah,
some fuck me.
She meets a handsome man.
Handsome man who is his mother was from
Dahomey,
the village.
Yeah,
and his father was a white man, and so he shows up with his racist friend.
Yeah.
Who's doing slave trade. He shows up on like slave trade ships, and he's like subtle. He's the quietly horrified.
The guy that he's not having such a great time with it. But yeah, the guy that got to play like the slave trader is just like what you picture when you hear the word slave trader.
Yeah. And you know, like this is the type of movie where it's like, oh yeah, he won't be lasting.
No.
That motherfucker with his pirate fucking goatee.
Yeah.
And his shitty, he's all flowy and fancy.
when they're walking through the jungle. And he has them carrying him on a portable hammock.
Yep. It's always in my mind, it's always a weird thing to think about is that actor probably has the most fun role, right? Where they're just like, you're just racist piece of shit.
Oh, yeah.
Just be a real piece of shit.
Yeah,
anytime. He's like, got it.
Yeah. Playing a real over-the-top scummy villain. Although he's not that over-the-top.
No, he's not.
Nobody's really over the top in this film at all, actually.
No, again, it's the people act like people. It reminded me of something like Braveheart, where it's like, all right, this doesn't feel historical at all, but it's like they're just using a historical event to tell like a fun action film.
Yeah,
that felt very 90s in that it's like very like this is what I actually think is the strongest part of this movie is it's just oozing with charisma. Mm-hmm. Every fucking character who we're supposed to like is fucking a blast.
Right. It feels like a real classic blockbuster in that it's well made. All the themes are not super deep, but they're really resonant.
Yeah.
Particularly, and at the end when John Boyega is giving that speech about like why do we keep oppressing ourselves, and then that's like a conversation that's like still relevant because it's we have such it's poverty and shit like that. It's
I love John Boyega's great in this because the news that like what you just told me that he went back to slave trade. They don't portray his character as someone who wouldn't do that. Like he's kind of shitty.
He's shrewd. Yeah, he's shrewd.
Yeah, and he's like, like he's not a great leader, and they depict him that way.
Yeah, and they don't depict the society as being like a utopia either. Like there's clear problems there. Like the main character she points out to Viola Davis when she gets caught sort of flirting with some of the guys in the infantry. She's like, we told you that this unit of warriors you're a part of, we're not allowed to marry and we're not allowed to have kids. You can't be flirting with the other soldiers. And she's like, well, why? The guy infantrymen get to have families and children. So it's like there's still like it's by no means like an equal society or a utopia or anything, but
yeah, for sure.
So
and they also like they casually mention like the final test. If you fail it, you get like expelled from every like you get cast out.
Yeah,
like things where it's like, oh yeah, they do some fucked up shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So because yeah.
So it's not like I guess what I'm saying is it's not as sugar coated as it could have been.
No, that's what I thought was interesting about it is that it's both very Hollywood and very not because it is a Hollywood retelling, but it also it knows that part of that drama is to this like they want things to be unfair against the main character, and that means the society she's in is also unfair.
Yeah.
Like it begins with her dad trying to sell her off to like a weird old pervert who just immediately slaps her in
the face.
Yeah. It's not cool.
Yeah, to finish the thought I was saying, it feels like a real classic, Hollywood blockbuster in that the themes are not super deep, but they're really not. Well, they are a little deep in some parts, but they're really resonant and really clear. The good guys are good guys, and you like all the people you're supposed to like, and the bad guys are like like you see him, you're like, this fucking guy.
We were
it's just
talking
really,
about this is that it's nice sometimes when it's just good guys and bad guys, but I would agree that it is. I would say it's actually a little deeper than most Hollywood films.
It is,
I would
yes,
say. And,
it is. It's a little more. It's more nuanced. Yeah.
Yeah, what we're getting to here is there's a separate tribe that is they're vying for power. And Viola Davis very clearly has it out for this guy who runs the other tribe. And what becomes pretty clear is that they captured her once and they raped her. And it was really, really bad. And when she left, she was pregnant. And she had the kid and was like, get it out of my sight. And so like the Hollywood part is that the new recruit ends up being her kid.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what are the fucking odds of that?
Yeah, of course.
But there's a lot of threads about the idea that this horrific act producing this kid and her almost like her dealing with that fact and like kind of resenting the kid and not liking who she is because of what she represents, but also wanting to protect her because she ultimately, again, very, very Hollywood, she gets captured by the enemy and she fights her way out and then Viola Davis fights to get her back. And it's like, it's clear she doesn't want that to happen to her. She doesn't,
and she has a really...
There's this idea of her saying like, if you become a slave, slit your throat. Like there's nothing worse,
Yeah, specifically for women is what she's saying. She has a really great scene with the kid at the end when she finally opens up to her and is like, you are not the hurt that was done to me. And, and she finally like, she has that moment where she's like, I realize the nightmare I've been having is me sort of like, it's like she's burying her trauma rather than working through it.
Yeah. Because it's
and then foisting it on the daughter character, and so she has this really great, sort of poignant scene with her at the end where she sort of lets all that go and explains the way she's been behaving to the main character, her daughter character, who doesn't accept her right away. Like she kind of gets up and walks off, and then we get another scene, which is the very last scene in the movie, where the daughter does come back to Viola Davis, and is like during this, they're having a celebration, and she comes up to her and says, "Oh, do you want to, mother? Would you like to go dance?" So it's like, oh, okay, she has accepted that now.
Right, and this is all like through the thread of a pretty Hollywood film.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it interesting to me is like, you think about characters like Viola Davis is very much like, she reminds me of like a character like the Punisher, where it's like no weakness and trying to bury that trauma and manifest it in violence, etc.
It's done so well too when she has a first initial flare up when she recognizes the bad guy as one of the guys that assaulted her. And so it's like the first time, and she has to like go off to this private space because she can't show weakness in front of anybody. So it makes it hit that much harder because we don't see her actually show any weakness until like 40 minutes in. So it's really like, so like we're as rocked as she is in the moment. Right. And of course she's just, Viola Davis is killing it. So it's just a good performance on top of that. So it's really well done in that.
Yeah, that's what makes it modern to me, because you think of all these like revenge movies, typically men as the action hero, but it doesn't really matter. And those movies always are they always serve to just be fairly two-dimensional action movies, which I enjoy a lot.
Yeah,
this is that too, but then realized like, well, that type of character, there's a lot of depth there that we don't explore. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're doing with Viola Davis, which is like, yeah, she's this like hardened badass, but it's like, that's like the fact that she's scared to show weakness, that she's scared. Because I feel like the idea of having a daughter means it's a weakness, right?
Exactly. She views her as a weakness and as a reminder of a weakness and a reminder of the harm that was done to her.
Right. Yeah, and a liability. And then in the end, she has to accept that. And do something based on that. And like, yeah, some action movies do that where like I feel like the typical version is when like the hero knocks out the damsel and goes, "You gotta stay behind because you're a liability. I love you too much." You like those moments?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That they used to do all the time.
Sure
That's
did.
the equivalent. Yeah, but this is like the realistic exploration of that. Like what this is to me is what makes this movie unique, and what made it so that like it really grabbed my attention really quickly is it's an action film with all the tropes, and then it actually explores what those would mean to real people, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we have just like the coolest people, like in the recruitment, all the friends and all the people in charge.
Yeah, I really like Lashana Lynch as Izoki, and I like really like
Izoki was fucking great.
fucking
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, and then Amenza, the really tall lady that did like the
Yeah.
that was
Oh,
like
yeah.
Viola Davis's like confidant.
Yeah. That was fucking great. Yeah, she's like the only one who can talk to Viola Davis like a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt a little like in some of those spots. It felt a little like Gladiator as well, which I guess is the same thing as saying it felt like Braveheart.
Yeah, because again, the formula is like it's very much this new recruit, and she's you know she's defiant. She keeps getting yelled at, punished. She puts gunpowder in the dummies as a prank. The realization is you don't need a gun to make gunpowder explode. You just need a spark. And that sure as hell feels like foreshadowing.
Boy, does it, Dave.
Yeah. And so it's a lot of like punishments. And then she, of course, gets first in her class.
Yeah.
And these hard asses, she slowly starts like, you know, becoming friends with them and becomes one of them. And then, of course, some people die. And it's sad. It's legitimately sad to watch.
Yeah.
Because they make them so cool. Lashana Lynch's character, like she's the one with the whiskey, right?
Yeah.
Where she's like the only good thing the white men brought.
Yeah,
it's called whiskey.
Yeah. She was so fucking cool, man. I was
so cool.
I was pissed
Doesn't
when
they're
she
cool.
died.
They're all so fucking cool. And yeah, spoiler, she dies because
so
of course
pissed.
she died.
Well, you knew somebody was gonna die. Yeah.
She had that. It's dead meat from Hot Shots. It's like, yeah, you know, someone has to die.
Well, she's the mentor character. She's kind of like the Obi-Wan to the main character in a way. Nawi is the main character's name.
Nawi, yeah.
Yeah. So she's like her mentor for the majority of the film.
Yeah. So basically, it's like it's got everything too. Where there's like the political stuff, where it's like the whole phrase "the Woman King" comes from. What is the idea? Is like she would be next in line or something, and they're conversation, and the king has a bunch of wives, and one of them is clearly trying to get power.
Yeah.
And there's like these meetings where they all sit around and talk about what they need to do next. And they all kind of resent and the wife is there and they feel like she shouldn't be there. And like there's politics. Like it's definitely about a lot of the politics, which is like, how do we expand our kingdom? Well, the slave trade is making us a lot of money, and so on and so forth. And so like that's the first half is like that mix of things. And then like the slaver comes with the with the other guy who's going to be the fuck meat.
Handsome fuck boy.
Yeah. And he meets Nawi, and they have some cute moments.
Yeah. And I like that
then,
it wasn't like they go their separate ways in the end. Like it wasn't like, because for a second there they make it seem like he might try to convince Nawi to come back with him to England. I'm like, well, that's probably not where she wants
it's like
to go.
The boy you meet at camp at the end, where she's like, well, bye.
Yeah.
Like, like I thought maybe he'd stay with them. I was actually surprised he didn't.
He should,
because he does the whole thing where he's like, my mom is from here, and they're like, yeah, this is your home too. So you think that's what's going to happen, but
and
it
we
isn't.
just see like he's got this the slave trader guy who's his friend. I mean, he's his friend, and he says, well, I've known him my whole life, but he still kind of treats him like a servant.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, why do you want to go back to hang out with that guy? Even though he doesn't,
Right.
that guy super dies. But
super dies.
yeah, I thought maybe he might stay, but I liked that the romance was there, and it was cute, and they were charismatic, but it didn't like overshadow.
It's not a big part of the movie.
No, and it didn't overshadow the primary themes of the movie either. Like it would have felt a little cheap had Nawi been like, well, I'm going to go run off with hot guy. It's like, well,
I think what it is I keep saying this movie has everything. It really does, but it makes it all work. It doesn't feel shoehorned.
Yeah,
where it all kind of felt on theme, in a way that made it all like I'm only realizing that after the fact, where it's like it's got action, it's got politics, it's got romance, like it's got all these dynamics. It's got honkies getting fucking murdered.
Yeah.
Like the most villainous of honkies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a real vile honkies in this movie.
Yeah. So they basically, this army is coming to them. They show up expecting to give. They make a deal with the other tribe to like give them 20 people, and at first you think they're going to do it, and then instead they give them.
They kick over a basket of heads, and it's fucking awesome. Yeah, there's just this movie's sweet.
And so really it is. It really is sweet.
Yeah,
is it? I assume it's rated R based on just
it's
that
not
thing
actually.
We just
it's PG-13.
Oh, yeah, it's PG-13. That's
PG-13.
wild.
Yeah.
And so then we learn like, they're going to come at them with force, and like the war stuff is surprisingly not that big part of the movie too. And because they leave a lot of room for characters, and I appreciate that. How long was this movie?
It's a little over 2 hours. It was like 2 hours and 20 minutes. It was a little. It wasn't super long. But
I had to pee near the end, and so like it felt long because I had to pee, and I didn't want to leave.
Yeah,
like it's one of those where like I went in again from the advertisement. I was like, if I have to pee during this, so be it. And then during, I was like, shit, I want to watch this whole thing. I don't want to pee during this.
Yeah.
So I almost pissed myself watching it.
Yeah, because I was intrigued by the trailer as well, but this movie was a lot different and a lot better than the trailer kind of set it up to be. They
really should have showed who the main character was more, and like, because again, it's like an infallible main character is how they sort of made it look and the trailer, and it was just like, I don't know, this seems like not that like what's the conflict here? Like it's just she's awesome,
right? Yeah,
and then you watch it and you're like, oh fuck, the conflict is huge, and it's mostly internal because that's the thing is, I mean, all the combat they kind of breeze through it, and that's again part of the point, which is that like they never really struggled that much. So they learn the army is coming to them. So they're like, fuck it, let's attack them first. And here's where the spark can create an explosion thing. They take termite hills, and they take gunpowder and they disguise it as termite hills. And then they just blow them the fuck up and go in and just kill the shit out of them.
It's very Braveheart. It's like the scene where they cover the field in oil and then light it on fire. It's like they do almost exactly the same thing to blow up the termite hills in this. Yeah,
because they're outnumbered. But they do the thing where they're the underdog, but like, but not really. They clean up every time.
They're still like the fucking baddest asses. And you're right. There really is. There's only really one battle, which is toward the end, and then there's like two other action sequences. One's really brief, and then the last one is the final action sequence when Viola Davis takes a bunch of her people to go get Nawi from the slave port, basically.
Yeah, which we're getting to. Yeah, where basically Nawi gets in that attack, she gets kidnapped, and then the final thing is Viola Davis going to the slave port, which we've set up. That's just like the most vile place. Yeah, and they just burn it to the ground, and it is satisfying to watch.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet when she delivers that line. Like she goes
burn it to the ground. Yeah,
burn this whole place to the ground.
Yeah,
because it was just like, hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, because what's her name? Azogi.
Lashana Lynch.
She died. Yeah, she died at this point. And so, like, that's in again, making it Hollywood is that you never feel like. I did wonder, is Viola Davis going to die in this? Because I do think in the audience I was in, there's again, very cliche. There's the person with the sword behind her gets shot, reveals it's Nawi saving Viola Davis. But the audience I was in did do a sigh of relief because the movie is kind of setting up the idea that she's going to die.
Or that she might.
She's
It's
going
on
to
the
die
table.
to save Nawi. It's on the table.
Yeah.
So like it really was like the most Hollywood movie. And it's still like I still felt a little concerned for certain characters. Of course, Nawi is going to live, but like they did enough work where it's like even if you know the mechanisms, looking at Viola Davis's arc, you can see a version where she'll die. You know what I mean? As ending of her arc. So it was on the table, and that's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Shit, what was I going to say? Yeah, but generally speaking, I don't know if this is a criticism or not. There is no like battle scene where you feel like they're going to lose. Like at no point do you feel like this kingdom's under like gonna be taken over.
Right.
Because and it's mainly because the actual things that you're worried about is the character stuff. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and that's the big difference, I would say, between this and Braveheart or Gladiator. Even though that's present in both those are more action-focused, which, this one...
I think about something like,
ahead.
like Top Gun.
Yeah,
where you're like, of course they're going to get the mission done, but like how? Who's going to die? What tragedy is going to happen? How are the characters going to... Like, you care about the characters, so it's like, they're going to win in the end, but like... Under what condition?
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
And it's Heartbreak Ridge is the other one that comes to mind. Where like the first like 3 acts of the movie or whatever are just about all the characters. And then the final act is when the actual action scene happens. So even though there is action in this, it's mostly we've been beating this over the head, but it's mostly about the characters, which was really cool and the best way to get people to care about your movie. Care about the story you're telling.
I would say it's a distinction. Like it's what a lot of the strongest Marvel films do.
Yes,
like Avengers, Infinity Wars, and Endgame. They're gonna win. But it's still like watching the process and seeing the characters and who is gonna, because you also know like, man, I really feel like someone's gonna die here. Like it's about the journey, and it's a good movie makes it so that it's like, we all know what the score is, but we're still on the edge of our seats. Whereas you compare it to, I don't know, a lesser made Marvel film. I'm not going to name one because I can't think of one on the top of my head. Where like the characters aren't the Eternals, where the characters are, they're going to win, but also they're not interesting to watch. So you don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, I know they're going to win, but also I don't care. This is that where it's like, I know they're going to win, but they did a lot of work making me fall in love with all these characters.
And I didn't need an action sequence every 10 minutes.
No, I super didn't.
Yeah.
Just watching John Boyega is such a good fucking... watching him do his scenes, that alone was just like, I'm thrilled by this. I'm thrilled by every fucking
his final
glance
speech
he gives.
is really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just doing his thing.
Yeah.
I love that, like, again, he's kind of a dipshit. He does the thing where when Nawi wins, he says something like, if she wasn't a warrior, I would have made her one of my wives. And like, Viola Davis just like cringes a little.
Yeah. And the whole premise of the movie is, the woman king there's this tradition that John Boyega holds to where basically an equal woman king can be appointed to rule equally beside him, although he's still appointing her. And at one point he appoints Viola Davis, and then she's like, well, I've got to go get Nawi and the rest of the captives from the slave port. And he's like, well, no, if you don't reject this honor that I gave you. So it is still, so it's not really equal. The movie's making it clear that it's not.
Right. And then, the stakes of that, because then they return, and there's a scene where they return, they go before John Boyega, and John Boyega has been playing it in this way where he's very aloof. And like you said, he told her, like, don't do this. And so you genuinely in that moment aren't sure what he's going to do. Like, that's what makes it work, is that, like, of course they're going to win. Of course she's going to get back Nawi. But again, what are the conditions of that?
Yeah.
Is she going to live doing it? is she going to get like cast out? Because in that moment, the movie had set up that this society isn't exactly fair, that you do fully expect like, oh, she could get fucking fired for this.
Could get the boot.
She could get the boot. And so, and John Boyega, seemingly to like save face almost, is just like, no, we did it. We did the thing.
Yeah.
I was part of this.
Well, yeah, as she's walking back in, marching back in with her soldiers and the people and the captives that she rescued, everybody there, the whole crowd is chanting her name. So it's like, dude,
it would be really lame. You kind of have to do this.
They'd be really upset with you if you hand her papers.
Yeah, I really like the way they did his character because he really is like he reminds me of like, I don't know. I'm trying to like he's just like made him.
I think they made him as a
politician,
as likable a politician as you can realistically be, right? Because it's like,
but still a politician. Where you're like, things he does are kind of shitty, and so you don't know like, is he gonna fucking play ball or not? Yeah, it's a very, again, it's all very Hollywood to the point that it's like. Yeah, it's almost a little. I don't want to say conservative, but it's like, yeah, you can't leave it up to the politicians, Yeah.
You
got to get the soldiers out there to do stuff. Like it really does follow like all the stereotypes of like an 80s like army film or action film,
right? Yeah, like had they written him slightly different, or had like John Boyega played him slightly different, he would have essentially been like the hard-assed commander giving Maverick shit the whole movie, and then at the end he's like, "You're a damn good pilot," like it's basically that trope. But it's just,
I love John Boyega, but what if it was John Hamm in the role? How incredibly inappropriate would that be?
Dressed like a 21st century naval officer.
Just like, you've gone too far, Viola Davis. And everybody just like, who is this guy?
Who is he? But yeah, it's done with a little more care and nuance than that, but it is still the same trope. Yeah. So you can do tropes well and still make a good movie. Is. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, what it is that tropes are fine. It's just that we're really sick of them. And so like, if this was just another movie about like basically a dude in the military who goes off, and like if it was all just very American centric and it was just like the same old story, it would pass me by. And it is like, that's the thing about like representation in films and diversity in films, is that it gives us an opportunity to tell more stories.
Well, the whole
that are interesting.
Yeah, and the whole point of movies and storytelling and art specifically is empathy, right? Seeing something from another person's perspective, or
but from the most like cynical perspective.
Yeah,
it's just like we're able to tell stories we've told a million times in interesting ways again.
Yeah.
And with like more talented people, or like a bigger pool of talented people. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is. It's just like, I found this movie like kind of magnetic because it's all the same tropes, but the actors are fucking killing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a culture that I knew anything about. So like, and they know that they're introducing everything, they know that no one knows who the fuck this is, like this tribe.
Yeah, it's certainly not American audiences. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so they're spoon feeding it. And I'm dribbling it up.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I super enjoyed this. It's just like, yeah, it just goes in that list of like really good, like, quote unquote historical action films like Gladiator, or like I guess Braveheart.
Yeah. Totally. I'm not I'm not sure what else to say. Other than watching this movie, it just hit me again. It's like, man, Star Wars really wasted John Boyega, huh?
They really did.
They really
He's
wasted
such a good
him.
actor.
He is.
I rewatched Attack the Block recently too, and it's just like, fuck,
so
man.
Yeah.
He's so good. Yeah, I mean, this is all to say, like, This movie is fine. Like that's the thing is it's not life-changing or anything. It was just like really nice. Again, it was the conversation we had probably I think off podcast like in IRL.
Oh, like humans?
IRL.
Like human
yeah,
friends?
Like humans. Yeah, where we were talking about like, it's just like we subvert superheroes, like where the subversion of superheroes is now getting kind of tiring because it's all like.
Oh, I think that was on podcast. I think it was on
God
Hypecast.
Damn it.
I know.
Son of a bitch.
This is what happens when we do 6 of these a week, Dave.
I know. And it's just nice to see a movie that's just like, good versus evil.
It's more nuanced than that, but yeah, it's just.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah,
is like,
sorry.
That has that structure and frame. But then they said, you know what really matters is humans. So let's make the humans complex. And like that makes this movie unique. It makes it so that it isn't just another Hollywood film. And you could do this with anybody. You could do this with John McClane, you know?
Yeah.
Like, but they just choose not to with those action films.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is just a very well made movie with, It's just very well made.
Yeah, it's the question of like, where do you go when you've done all the tropes? You've seen a million cars jump a million fucking drawbridges. You know, you've seen
in defense of cars jumping drawbridges. That will never get old to me.
Yeah, you see Andy Garcia jump off a bridge to get Michael Keaton. It's where do you go from there? And it's like the place to go with all of these is the characters, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can tell a million stories with characters, and they'll all feel fresh. And that's what this comes down to is like this. The trailers made it feel like every other film, and then the characters made it completely unique, and that's. Really cool.
Really stands out. Yeah. This is a great movie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie.
I'm excited to watch it a second time, Dave.
Yeah, me too. And again, I understand that there's some very weird historical things, but like,
I guess just commenting on the movie itself. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like a discussion I think we should have. It's more of like we should have it in the context of all the movies and not just this one movie.
Right.
Because right now this movie is just playing by the same rules as the others. And it just feels weird to target just this movie for that, you know? But like we should in the future handle that, right? Talk about these historical figures with that nuance.
100%. Doing shit like Mel Gibson's The Patriot doesn't help anyone.
No, it helps Mel Gibson for a while.
For a time.
Yeah, it's just, and that's part of why this feels like a throwback because it has that like that kind of rose-colored glasses, but again, not as much as I thought it would because they address it head on as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a big part of the movie.
Yeah, I got nothing else to say.
Yeah, I think that's it, Dave. I think that's a sode.
That's a frothy sode, folks. Drink it up. Drink it up. Lap it with your tongues. Yeah.
Your tongues.
Your tongues. Lap it with no straws for you. You know, because if you don't have a straw, you have to lap it up with your tongues. You're talking to multiple
listeners. I thought I was in my mind, you were talking to people that had more than one tongues in the same head. And that's
pretty cool.
That's pretty sweet, actually. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. All right. Listen, we have a Patreon, Tom. Did you hear about our Patreon?
No. Tell me about it.
It's patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. You can go on there for $5 a month. You get access to a bunch of exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. We also watch movies every Friday night with our patrons. You have to kick in a little more for that. We have custom We Just Watched episodes. We have a bunch of tiers on there. You can check them out. We have a little community on Discord. And you can rate and review us on like Apple Podcasts and stuff. And every now and then we stream games sometimes in a blue moon.
We do that sometimes.
Doo-doo. You said doo-doo.
I did. Lap that up with your tongues. We also have a store.
Yeah.
Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store. We have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs you can get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all sorts of things. So check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, babe.
Yeah. Yes, babe. God, Mike Myers in this. He could have played the John Boyega role. doing like a Scottish accent.
Yeah, as a weird Scottish king.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
I don't know, man. I don't know why we're doing anything. What are we? Where are we? What's going on?
What is this?
Okay, bye.